Hi, I'm Lucy from So Essential and I'm here today to share my latest make with you. So everything I talk about in today's video is available on our lovely website, and you'll find links to our website and the products I mentioned below. And if you like what you see today, please like and subscribe, because every Friday I bring you a video packed full of sewing goodness. And if you can't wait a whole week, do jump on and have a look at our Instagram account as well, where we share daily inspo on our grid. So it's a special episode today to share a special dress that I've made with you, which is for my 40th birthday party, which is hopefully going ahead, all being well, tomorrow. So I'm filming this ahead of time. It probably will have happened hopefully by the time this goes out, but to celebrate my 40th birthday, there's a group of 20, nearly 30 of us going up to the Peak District and having a weekend up there. And I decided that on the Saturday night I wanted to do a 70s theme. I've just always absolutely adored the 70s fashions. My ideal dream, my ultimate fantasy is wandering around a field at Woodstock in a beautiful dress with flowers in my hair and John Lennon sunglasses on. So I thought, right, let's just make that a reality. This is the opportunity. This is the time to just go for it and do what I want to do. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun really to come up with that theme and make a dress especially for it. So it'll be interesting to see what everybody else goes for. There's so many options with the 70s, but I'll just show you the dress now. So I knew I wanted to do a V-neck sort of A-line skirt, and I knew I wanted the huge drama of these sleeves. I wanted the psychedelic sort of flower power fabric, and we had the perfect fabric in stock. This is 100% silk. It's the most beautiful fabric. It was gorgeous to work with. I'll talk to you about that. And look at the flow and drape and movement on that. It was just absolutely ideal for this project. I really loved working with it. It was a great experience. So yeah, we've got the V-neck at the top, and then it goes into an A-line skirt, which I have shortened quite a bit. I wore it with knee-high boots on the night for that sort of 70s vibe, but I took quite a bit off the length just to make it that bit shorter. It's still a decent sort of length in my opinion, but I think I shortened it by about 4.5 centimetres, so just so you've got an idea of that. But yeah, here it is. It's got a zip up the centre back. And then we've got bust darts here on the bodice, and I lined the silk because it was semi-sheer. I lined it with our John Caldor Libra stretch lining in white. It comes in a range of colours, but this lining fabric, this is the second project I've done where I've used a woven fabric on the shell and then used this stretch lining on the inside, and it's just a brilliant product to use for these sorts of projects, because it just makes it feel really nice and comfortable and soft inside, and it's really lightweight, so it doesn't it doesn't stiffen the shell fabric at all. It allows it to sort of flow and hang beautifully as it would without the lining. So yeah, that worked out really well. But I just love these sleeves so much, and I love this floral print. So obviously when I was cutting out, I had to be really careful. You've got these quite big flowers here, so I didn't want to end up with one of those on each boob, so I had to really think about that, and I thought about the positioning on the front there as well. And what I did with the silk as well was I cut it out on a single layer, which is obviously very time consuming. I spent the best part of a Sunday cutting it out. I really took my time and was very careful, because obviously it's such a fluid fabric, it can move quite easily, so I knew I had to be really accurate with my cutting out, so I did that. But let's just talk about the patterns that I used as well now. So in my head I had this idea of this dress. I knew I wanted a V-neck, an A-line skirt, and as always I come up with these ideas in my head and there's never a pattern that quite ticks the box. I wanted the sleeves as well. There's never something that's got all the different elements that I want. So I found a McCalls pattern that I was going to use, and that had sort of a V at the front and was gathered under the bust, and luckily, thank God, I thought I'm going to make a toile and just check that this is a good fit and is going to work okay, and it was just absolutely awful on me. I think part of the problem is I'm really small, quite small busted, and the woman on the pattern packet was much fuller busted than me and was able to fill this area that had the underbust gathers, and when I made it, I mean, it was coming down below where my bra strap is at the front. It was way too big. It just would have taken so much work to alter and to get it to fit me properly. I just thought, you know what, it's just not worth the hassle. I need something more simple, something that's going to be a much better fit from the word go. But this happened at 8 o'clock one night, and I really was in a panic thinking, oh my God, I've left it so late, I haven't got much time to get this made, what am I going to do? As you do. So I started trawling through the patterns on our website again. And as I was doing that, you know, I kept looking, no, that's no good, that's no good. I was really getting it. Oh, that one looks all right. Oh no, that's for stretch fabrics. I'm using a woven. Anyway, I stumbled across Vogue 9344 and I thought, you know what, why did I discount that? I made that before. It was the last project I did before this. I made the round neck version and the bodice was a really good fit. The bust darts were in the right place, which almost never happens for me. I very often have to raise them. The back bodice is really quite fitted. It's got darts at the waist and then darts at the shoulder as well. So it's really nice and fitted. I'd already made the round neck version, so I'd already altered the back pattern piece to get a really good fit on that. And to do that, I did my usual high round back and forward shoulder adjustment. But when I made the toile, I noticed that I had a lot of gaping at the back armhole as well. So I also did a low round back adjustment because the back bodice piece is so fitted. I think whereas a lot of patterns will just sort of hang once you get beyond that sort of top shoulder area, because it was sort of fitted to the curve of your body, it just needed that extra little bit of depth for me. So I'd already done all those alterations on the back bodice piece. All I needed to do was get the front bodice piece right and find some sleeves. I didn't want to use the sleeves on 9344. They are amazing and gorgeous, but I had these trumpet or bell sleeves or whatever you want to call them in mind. So all I had to do was find a pattern with the right sleeves, hack that onto the 9344 bodice, and I knew I'd have the dream dress that had been going around my head for ages in the run up to this party. So I still made a toile of 9344 because obviously I hadn't done the V-neck before, and what I found was it was really quite low at the front, as they often are. Now I think I probably could have got away with it, but I was just a little bit worried that when I was sitting down it might be gaping, there might be a bit too much on display. So I did just raise the neckline slightly. I think I probably added about 1/4 of an inch just to the where the sort of bias cut V is at the front. But other than that, again, everything was a great fit, so that was happy days. And the other thing that's wonderful about this pattern is it's super easy to sew. It really is. If I hadn't have lined it, I mean, you could whip it up literally in a few hours. It's a very simple bodice. The skirt's a very simple A-line. It really does come together nice and easily. So that was good with this project as well. After the sort of drama with the other pattern not working out and going back to square one, it was nice to be sewing something that I was like, no, I can be confident about this. It's a nice easy pattern, and also I think the fact that the bodice and the skirt are nice and simple really shows these sleeves off and balances it out well, so that was good as well. So yeah, the alterations I made, as I said, I raised the front neckline just slightly and it's still quite low cut, which is what I wanted. I did my adjustments on the back bodice piece I've talked about. The other thing is, because I did make a full toile, which I never do, well no, not a full toile, I made the bodice and the skirt just to check the fit and make sure I was happy with it, because it was for my party. I wanted it to be spot on, and because I was working with this beautiful 100% silk, I thought, you know, I want to get this right. But the other alteration I made, when I made the toile, I noticed that it was hanging, it's supposed to hang quite loose at the back, but it was hanging really quite loose, so I decided to just taper in at the centre back there as well, almost not a sway back adjustment, but I just took some out of that centre back seam, which made it slightly curved, but I still got the zip in fine. Everything worked out brilliantly, and I'm just really pleased with that fit, 'cause it's still not, you know, skin tight, but it just kind of gives me just a slightly better fit in my opinion on there. So I really went to town on the fitting and making the toile and getting that right, and I'm so glad I did. I went to town on sort of cutting out on a single layer, taking my time, going for accuracy, and as I say, I'm really pleased that I did. I'm thrilled with the results. For the sleeves, I used Vogue 9285, I think it is, and that's because they had these wonderful trumpet sleeves on there. So to hack that to match the 9344 bodice, all I did was I got the sleeve piece for the 9344 and I got the sleeve piece for the 9285, and I just put them on top of one another, and luckily they're both Vogue patterns. The sleeve head was basically the same sort of shape, and it fitted at that point, and then it was just slightly different on the actual sleeve here. So I just laid one on top of the other and just extended the 9344 sleeve down so that it matched the 9285 sleeve, and just used that basically. Then I was able to just use the 9344 piece, so I knew it would fit the 9344 bodice, but I just extended it down so that it would match the cuff, the band and the trumpet sleeve that were part of 9285. So that was quite simple and easy to do. Luckily, as I say, the sleeve heads were basically the same shape, so I could get away with that. Construction wise, I did line it, as I said, so it's like a semi-sheer fabric. So to line it, it was a bit of a head scratcher construction wise, and there's quite a few different options you can go for. In the end, I decided to attach it. I made the bodice shell in terms of darts and shoulder seams, and I did the same with the lining. And then I attached the lining around the neckline first of all. Obviously understitched it, trimmed the seams, pressed it, got it all turned out the right way. And then the next job I did was I made the skirt up in the shell and the lining. I stitched the centre back seam to the point where the zip was going to go, and then stitched the side seams. No, I didn't do the centre back seam yet. No, forget that. I stitched the side seams together on this skirt piece and the skirt lining piece, and then I did the same technique as I did when I made the other version of 9344, whereby I wanted to enclose all the seams at the waist on the inside of the dress so that you wouldn't be able to see any sort of overlocking here or anything like that. So the way that I did that was I had my bodice and bodice lining were already attached at the neckline. I think I did just tack them together at the front there so that they were lying properly. And then I took the skirt pieces and I put the right side of the skirt, the outer skirt, with the right side of the outer bodice, and then I put the right side of the lining to the right side of the lining bodice, so you created a sandwich. So you had shell, lining, and then I stitched the waist seam through all 4 layers of fabric, and then obviously when you flipped it the right way, all those seam allowances were inside them, so you don't see any of that from the right side of the dress. And on the last dress that I did, because I'd made a tiered skirt, I had to overlock the seam allowances together, but with this one they were just straightforward flat seam allowances. So I decided on this occasion to press them open, because this silk presses so beautifully. You would not believe how beautifully it presses, so crisp. Oh, it's lovely. So I was able to press the seam allowances open and just overlock the edges of them, and that actually looks really pretty inside of the garment as well. You've got the white lining and then this little pop of psychedelic colour going across the centre of it. And then when it came to doing the zip, I did a new technique here that I haven't done before. So I tacked the lining and the bodice together just at the centre back, just to make sure everything was in the correct position. And then I treated the lining and the shell as a single layer. So I overlocked the edges of them and treated it as if I was just inserting an invisible zip into a dress without a lining. But what you have to think about is what you're going to do with your zip tapes at the top. But this is the really cool bit that I really liked and worked out really well. I always struggle to sort of, when I'm doing an invisible zip the normal way and you push the zip tapes to the side, I very often struggle to get it just right. They're either too high up and it's difficult to turn it all over and get a nice crisp corner, or it's too low down and then I have to add a hook and eye. Well, with this method you can kind of test it out before you stitch it in place, but you just tuck the zip tapes into or underneath the seam allowances on either side, and then you just hand stitch that in place, and it worked really, really well. I think because it's quite a lightweight fabric, it's not bulky, it just worked out brilliantly. I was able to get the position of the zip just right. It looked really neat. Again, I really like the fact that, because obviously the fabric, the seam allowances are visible on the inside, you've got that little pop of the psychedelic colour going down that centre back seam, the same as across the waist. It just all looked really pretty inside and really neat, and I was really pleased with how that worked out. In terms of the sleeves, I didn't line them, and I did tack the lining and the shell round the armholes first to make sure everything was in the correct position, and then I attached the sleeve, and then I just overlocked the seams, the seam allowances, and pressed those in the normal way. These trumpet sleeves were quite interesting to make. I still don't know whether I cut the pattern piece out wrong or if it's a bit unclear, but I didn't realise, I thought these trumpet sleeves were made in two pieces. So there's a long pattern piece and there's a roll line, and I don't know whether I shouldn't have cut that down that line, or whether there was another piece on the pattern. I don't think there was. I think what you're supposed to do is cut that piece out and then flip it so that you cut a double width piece, and then you fold that in half to create this trumpet sleeve. But what I did was I cut two separate pieces out, and it wasn't until I was coming to put it together, and I was feeling a little bit groggy because it was the day after my actual 40th birthday, and I'd been out for a meal with my family, had quite a late night, few drinks, feeling a bit worse for wear, and it wasn't until I started trying to put it together that I realised what I'd done and thought, oh no, I don't know if I've got enough fabric left to do the other one, because I'd sort of got bored of cutting out and only cut one sleeve trumpet out and left the other one to do when I came to make the dress. So anyway, what I did was I just sewed the pieces together with a really narrow seam, and because the fabric presses so beautifully, I was able to just press where that join was underneath, so it's on the wrong side of the garment. So if you can just see there, that's the right side, and then underneath you probably won't even be able to see it, but there's a join, and that worked out really well. That was absolutely fine. And then I just did the same on the other sleeve. There's pleats which create the sort of fullness in the sleeve and sort of make it fit into that band at the bottom of the sleeve. And when I did those, Angela gave me a little tip just to sew a few stitches inside the pleat just to hold it in position, and that worked really well as well. And yeah, it was a bit fiddly sort of doing the sleeves and the cuffs. It took a bit of time, you know, and again, probably because I was feeling a bit groggy after a late night the night before, it probably took me longer, but really sort of satisfying process to do. I think they work brilliantly in this fabric, and I just think this fabric, you know, it's quite loud, it's quite out there when it's made up into a dress with big sleeves like this, and obviously that's the look I was going for this party. But I do think it would be beautiful made up into just an everyday blouse as well, paired with jeans and your favourite jacket. You know, I think it could be a really lovely pop of colour to your wardrobe, and look really stylish and unusual. And as I say, it's just absolutely beautiful to work with. So yeah, I'll pop the links to all the patterns and the fabric and everything below. below. But you know, again as well, this dress, I just think this pattern, this 9344, such a versatile pattern, so easy to make, so easy to hack and adjust and make it the way you want it. You know, you've got the round neck option, the V-neck option, there's 2 different sleeve options on there, so definitely worth having a look at that as well, because you know, you've got to imagine if you made it not with these sleeves, but perhaps with one of the sleeves that are with the pattern in a plain fabric, or something that's a bit more toned down, if this isn't your sort of thing. I think it's a really beautiful dress, and I think, you know, I've already made it twice. That's definitely staying in my stash. I think I'll be going back to it again. So yeah, but all in all, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to tell you about this dress. I just absolutely love it. I can't wait to live my Woodstock dream, and yeah, just sort of relive the 70s with some good 70s music, this dress and my knee-high boots, and hopefully at some point during the video we'll have been able to just put a few photos in of the party and the outfit in all its glory. I've got some managed to get some wacky sort of sunglasses and some long hair, and there's a lot of different accessories going on, so hopefully you'll get to see some of that in the video as well. But I hope you've all enjoyed that today. As I mentioned at the start of the video, everything I talk about is available on our lovely website, and you'll find links to everything I mentioned below. And if you like what you see today, please like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.